Welcome back into another edition of the Arrowhead Pride Chiefs Training Camp Report. Day 13 of full team practice has officially wrapped. We're in the heart of training camp now as the Chiefs prepare for their first preseason game of the year coming up this Sunday against the New Orleans Saints. So let me welcome in the leader of Arrowhead Pride, Pete Sweeney. Sween, it's finally game week, even though it seems like we've been in training camp for 2 months.
Yeah. This is exciting, right? I think every year it kind of goes the same way. You're excited for the first practice, and then you're ready for pads, and then they put pads on, and then you're ready for the preseason game. I know about a quarter into the preseason game on Sunday, we're going to be ready for the regular season. So it's coming, but it's been a slow process for sure.
The Chiefs did have some good news on Monday as defensive end Mike Dana finally returned to practice. He's been nursing a calf injury. So still no Chris Jones up in St. Joe. Doesn't sound like the Chiefs have any answers as to when that's going to happen. But we assume it's going to happen at some point. But nice to see Mike Dana return to the practice field for the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's important. You know, you talk about the line and not having Chris Jones in camp. We know about Charles Omenihu now will miss the first 6 games due to that NFL suspension. And so getting Dana back in the mix is huge. I think the Chiefs see him as the starting defensive end across from Karlaftis. Not necessarily a household name, but I think someone who is really coming on in his career. And if there was ever a time for him to break out in the sense and get on the sack sheet, it's this year when they need someone like that across from Karlaftis with Frank Clark going to the Denver Broncos. So missed about a week, I think it was, with the calf, but he was healthy enough to take the field today, and we'll see, I'm sure, him get more and more reps as we go.
Yeah, and we know how the Chiefs are going to manage these things. They're not going to rush anybody back. And, we heard from Isaiah Pacheco on Monday. He's still wearing the non-contact jersey, but he kind of said similar things. Like, it's just, he's like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go hit people, and I'm all gas and no brakes, but he's like, they won't let me do it. They're saying I'm not ready. So it's kind of up to the coaches, but we just know that the Chiefs are going to manage these things and be extra cautious when it comes to injuries, especially with veteran players.
Yeah, and here we are, Steve. I just had to check my phone for the date. I mean, we're still a month away from the regular season, so there's not a reason to rush anybody. If anyone is feeling sick or anyone dinged up, there's no reason to try to push through. Get everyone right and have them ready to go. Isaiah Pacheco, you can tell though he's ready to have a regular red jersey. I think he's sick of that non-contact yellow jersey. We haven't really seen him in these 11-on-11 periods where there is that thud and the contact. They're still holding him out of that. But as we go here, I mean, I tend to think they'll want to get him some touches in a preseason game. I don't anticipate that being this first one.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him play any preseason snaps it seems like he's ready to go. Like he feels like he is ready to go, but the team doctors have just said, no, you're not quite there. And they're going to err on the side of caution, but that's what you want to see with a young player like him too. And he's going to have a big role in this offense moving forward. Another player that starting to get a little worried about is cornerback L'Jarius Snead. And Andy Reid was asked about him and just said he's still dealing with some knee swelling and they're just managing that and they're going to work him back slow. But it seems like he's been dealing with this knee issue for a while now. And I'm starting to get a little bit worried about the Chiefs' top cornerback.
Yeah, it's kept him out of practice for a long time now. Andy was forthcoming today, though, as you mentioned, Snead, and saying that it is getting a little bit better. I guess there is some swelling with the knee. That dates back to last year. This is a thing that has been going on for a long time. So they're just being cautious right now, trying to manage that so that he is ready for the regular season. Without him today, it was Trent McDuffie and Joshua Williams at the outside cornerback positions, and then McDuffie would slide in and Jalen Watson would come on. Those were your top 3 today.
Yeah, and that cornerback room, and we've been talking about Echo Boydo a lot, and he was a long shot to make the roster, obviously, undrafted player that they brought in, and it seems like they're giving him a lot of looks, like giving him an opportunity. And now Nazeeh Johnson's out for the season and L'Jarius Snead's banged up. Like there's an opportunity for him to possibly make this roster. And he's probably not going to be like a contributing member of the secondary or anything like that. But it seems like the Chiefs have really liked what they've seen from him so far in training camp.
Yeah, he's a tough one because Steve Spagnuolo has given him some opportunities. With the 2 practices coming into today, he was starting with the first team. The problem is he's going to be the 6th corner on this team if he makes the roster, and he doesn't feel like a guy that has impressed Dave Toub with special teams. They had Dave Toub up there the other day and asked about Echo Boydo, and the first thing he mentions is, well, he's 177 pounds. How could he play special teams? Now, there are outliers where guys can be a little bit lighter and, make their way onto the special teams, but it just didn't seem like Dave was optimistic. And if you're going to make the team as a 6th cornerback, you have to do that. I do think they like him. We do get Steve Spagnuolo, and we'll get to talk to him a little bit about Echo tomorrow. But for me, I just feel like he's better suited for the practice squad, at least for this year. Maybe he adds weight and it becomes something as you go. And then you never know, right? We did say the Najee Johnson injury, you never want to see injuries happen, but they do. So who knows if he could work his way up to the cornerback room as it goes on.
And wide receiver Cornell Powell was out of practice on Monday, and he's a player that, hasn't been mentioned a lot. And he's a guy that, came in a couple of years ago and has kind of hung around on the Chiefs as like a practice squad player. But with all of the depth in that wide receiver room, it seems like it's probably going to be tough for him to find a role on this team this season. And he might be, that kind of odd man out in the wide receiver room. So he's a player that you hate to see him miss practice at this point, because it seems like it's kind of a crucial moment for him during his time with the Chiefs.
He wasn't listed in the injuries, so I do wonder if it was just personal. We didn't really get an update on Cornell after. Sometimes when they're not listed in injuries, they have an excuse reason to be out of the mix. But Cornell actually has looked all right this camp, but I just don't see the Chiefs keeping more than already 7 receivers.
Yeah,
he certainly would not be in the top 7. I do wonder, since he's been here a few years, does he get waived and maybe try to link up with somebody else in another team's room to try to make that team? Because I just don't know how it could happen in Kansas City for him. Maybe go to a team with a weaker wide receiver room.
It's kind of a quiet day at practice on Monday for the Kansas City Chiefs. We heard from head coach Andy Reid, running back Isaiah Pacheco, cornerback Trent McDuffie, and punter Tommy Townsend. So if you're listening to us on the podcast, I encourage you to stick around after the break to check all the Monday's press availability out. But Pete, any other standouts, any other observations from Monday you want to get to before we get out of here?
Yeah, but it's been cool in St. Joe, which I think the players have liked. They were coming off the day off today. Just continuing to have long drive periods, build up that stamina for, what would be the regular season. As you'll hear, Andy Reid was asked about Chris Jones and once again said he hasn't been speaking with Chris Jones. So no real update there, which I think in a sense is an update. Just the fact that these 2 sides remain far apart. So we'll hopefully see that change in the coming days and weeks.
He's Pete Sweeney. You can follow him on Twitter at PG Sween. As always, please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review everything that we're doing here on the Arrowhead Pride Podcast Network. Check out all of our fantastic training camp coverage at arrowheadpride.com. Chiefs are back on the practice field tomorrow as they get ready for their first preseason action of the season coming up this Sunday. We will talk to you then.